Imagine discovering a photograph of yourself. You're just an infant, maybe feeling quite vulnerable, and it's right there, in a public historical archive. An image you never even knew existed.
Yeah, it's a jarring thought, isn't it?
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, that startling scenario is exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at a report, a really comprehensive one, about someone finding photos like that, them and their mother, at St. Helens Hospital in Auckland.
Wow. And this was back in 1989.
That's right, 1989. So our mission here is to explore, the real story behind these images, the history, the ethics, or maybe lack thereof, and crucially, the kind of psychological impact discovering this can have on you.
Okay, and first thing, I think we need to clarify something surprising. These weren't like private family photos that somehow leaked out, were they?
No, not at all. They were actually part of a specific public project.
Which was called the 1990 Project.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit, I don't know, grand.
It does, yeah. And what's fascinating here is how it all came about. That the photos were taken by a photographer, Miles Hargest.
Okay. And they were commissioned by Auckland Libraries, specifically for this 1990 project. It was funded for the New Zealand Sesquicentennial, the 150th anniversary.
Yeah, right. So the idea was to document Auckland life at that time.
Exactly, a kind of visual record. And that included St. Helens Hospital, which importantly was actually set to close soon after.
So these photos end up in the Auckland Library's Kura Heritage Collections online, and then aggregated by Digital NZ.
Correct. Which acts like a time spanner, as the report metaphorically calls it. It lets you see these past moments.
But the emotional impact, when you're the subject, that changes everything.
Absolutely. It really highlights how, your perception is just completely shaped by that personal, emotional connection to the image. It's not just history then, it's your history.
So these weren't just personal photos. They became public record almost by accident. Or maybe policy?
Sort of a combination, yeah. Timing, policy, the specific project goal, with, as you say, potentially deep ramifications for the people in them. Okay, so understanding how they came to be is one piece. But let's get into the where and when. St. Helens Hospital in 1989. What was that environment like? It was closing down.
It was. The hospital was facing closure in June 1990 after years of uncertainty and community protest, actually. So it was a turbulent time for the institution itself.
And what about the broader picture in New Zealand? Child welfare, privacy. What were the rules back then?
Well, that's the crucial part. 1989 was effectively an ethical vacuum compared to today's standards. We didn't have comprehensive privacy laws yet.
Like the Privacy Act.
Exactly. The Privacy Act came in 93 and the Health Information Privacy Code in 94. Those came later, back then. The standard was often implied consent.
Implied consent, meaning what just being there meant you agreed.
Pretty much. Your presence in a place, especially maybe a public or semi-public institution, could be taken as permission to be documented. It's a world away from the explicit written consent we expect and legally require now, especially in healthcare.
Wow. And connect that to the bigger picture you mentioned, the social framing.
Right. There was this societal narrative around high-risk families. Think about the crack baby scare, that kind of moral panic. It could unfortunately lead to some patients, especially vulnerable ones, being seen more as case studies for documentation rather than individuals with rights.
So less focus on the person, more on the phenomenon or the situation being recorded for posterity.
That's a fair way to put it. Historical attitudes definitely shaped how things were documented. It's jarring, like you said, because 1989 doesn't feel that long ago, but the ethical landscape was vastly different.
Okay, so given that environment, that lack of clear consent, it makes sense finding these images now could be huge. How does it become potentially re-traumatizing?
Well, this raises a really important point. For someone with a history of trauma, maybe childhood trauma or institutional trauma, finding images like this capturing a moment of vulnerability without your consent can absolutely trigger complex PTSD or CPTSD.
And CPTSD can sometimes be missed, right?
Yes. That's a real risk. Its symptoms can overlap with other conditions, leading to what we call diagnostic overshadowing. The underlying trauma might get misidentified or missed altogether, meaning you don't get the right support.
So validating that deep personal reaction is critical.
Hugely important. Understanding where that intense feeling comes from, that it's a legitimate response to a past event colliding with the present.
Okay, so let's get practical. If you, listening now, were to find yourself in this incredibly difficult situation, what can you actually do?
Right, actionable steps. First, regarding the images themselves, you can contact Auckland Libraries directly.
And is there a formal process?
Yes, the National Library of New Zealand, which oversees digital NZ where these images might be aggregated, has a specific form. It's a takedown or request a review form.
And what should you say on that form?
Be specific, state your grounds clearly, lack of informed consent, both yours as a minor at the time and potentially your mother's. Mention the sensitive, vulnerable nature of the images, and crucially, the emotional harm and distress the discovery is causing you.
Okay, that handles the image itself. What about the emotional fallout?
Seeking trauma-informed care is vital. Look for therapists who specialize in CPTSD. Maybe explore therapies like CBT or EMDR.
Are there other supports?
Definitely. Peer support can be incredibly powerful. Organizations like NEPAC or SCA, that's the National Association for People Abused in Childhood, or Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, offer understanding from people with shared experiences. And simple self-care, grounding techniques, they can help manage the immediate distress too.
So we've really gone through the layers here. The history, the technology, making it accessible, the ethics or lack thereof back then, and the very real personal impact.
We have, and it's important to remember, while finding something like this is deeply distressing, taking action, requesting removal, seeking support that can be incredibly empowering.
Right, turning passive discovery into active reclamation.
Exactly. It can even be a catalyst for what's called post-traumatic growth. It doesn't erase the pain, but it transforms the experience into part of an active journey forward.
So what does this all mean for you? I think it's just a powerful reminder, isn't it? History isn't always just neatly contained in books or museums. Sometimes it's staring right back at you from a digital archive, waiting.
Waiting to be understood, acknowledged, and maybe, just maybe, reclaimed on your own terms.